I'm going to dive right in because I know, Jarf, your bedtime is like, what, 7:15, 7:30?
Ha ha ha.
Mine is 8:30, but I'm 2 hours behind, so we're good.
I should move to where you are.
Yeah!
Then I wouldn't get all this flack.
From Geppetto Studios in New Freedom, Pennsylvania, welcome to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, your home for inclusive, positive geek culture, where we talk about movies, comics, music, books, and whatever else we feel like. Please welcome your host,
Get him, Jarf!
Brad Mendenhall.
Hey kids, it is episode 274 of the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. It is a special one, as Honey Badger and her amazing friends are here to talk about the best and worst of 2022. Wanted to have this out a few days earlier, but there were technical difficulties with the edit. Anywho, I have a big announcement. Cosmic Geppetto has been going strong for almost 8 years. It has been an amazing experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. However, I have made the decision that 2023 will be the last year of the show. We will end with episode 300. There was a lot of things that went into the decision. I'm so proud and so happy about what we've done, but I sort of feel like everything that we set out to accomplish with the podcast has been accomplished. There's an amazing amount of time, effort, and dedication involved with quite a few people to make this thing work. I felt like these were energies and efforts that were better spent elsewhere. It really is amazing because so many other pieces of work can trace their lineage to Cosmic Geppetto, from the minute-by-minute shows that I've done and Jarf has done, the neat work that we did with the radio plays of Say Yes. I've made some amazing friends. I've talked with some fantastic people, and I'm so proud of it. But things have to come to an end at some point, and I decided that 300 would be a great way to tie things up. So we have a bunch more episodes to go. We're going to talk to some great people, and I promise that 2023 will be a great final year for the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. Been a little while, but it's the last podcast of the year, so we got all of Honey Badger and her amazing friends are here. So let's start with Katie, the Honey Badger. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Brad?
I am wonderful. It's good to hear your voice. It's also really good to hear the voice of our next guest, Mike Watson. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing very good. Glad to be here.
So excited to have you back. Bat and cleanup. Jarf, how are you?
I'm good. I'm the Kyle Schwarber of the Honey Badger and her amazing friends.
No, you are not, because Kyle Schwarber bats leadoff.
That's a great point.
Well, which is so weird. Going right into baseball talk, because Jarf and I are Phillies fans. Kyle Schwarber was such an odd choice for the leadoff hitter because he was a power hitter for low average. It's like, that's not who you're supposed to have, but sort of hard to argue with the results.
Yeah, I mean, they made it work almost all the way. Okay, so Katie is Kyle Schwarber.
Katie, you're the Schwarbs.
Okay, I can pronounce that.
Oh, gosh, it's so good to have everyone together. And I'm really excited to talk about this year because 2022 has been an interesting year where it sort of feels like the world is gotten back to as normal as it's going to get. I went to my first plays that I've gone to in a long time. True story, way back before the pandemic really started. I had tickets for my birthday to go and see Book of Mormon in New York City. And 2 days before we were supposed to go take this really nice trip to New York, that's when they shut down Broadway. And this year I finally got the chance. I saw it in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I was able to go see it. it was sort of symbolic for me because this year I went to my first concerts that I've gone to in years, and I was able to see plays, and I went out to movies, and I'm excited to see. Has that ring true to you guys? Where although there's still times we have to wear masks, especially for those of us who are immunocompromised, but it feels like the ability to go and enjoy pop culture in its natural habitat has come back.
I mean, I think so. I traveled to Seattle this year to attend Pokemon Go Fest. Hadn't done that in a few years, so I'm definitely back to nerddom.
Holy crap, someone pumped the brakes.
What did you say? Pokemon Go Fest?
Y'all know that I play Pokemon Go.
Yes. I just didn't know there was a fest because I know you can just play it on your phone anywhere, and so the need to gather all in one place. But then, I mean, that's how you meet the other nerds.
Yes, but they do Go Fests throughout the year, usually like 3 in the summer, usually one in the US, one in Europe, and and in 2019, I went to Germany to go to the one in Germany.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Were you also charged up by the news that Ash is finally a champion? And
I'm not that deep into the show and stuff, but I definitely saw the buzz about that, so I'm happy for him. Good for him.
yeah, that was like the biggest news, and apparently it was all on the billboards and stuff. Ash has finally become a champion, and he's hit the 18-year-old mark.
Everything about this conversation is just because I do remember, Katie, you being into Pokemon Go, but I didn't know that you kept up with it. And I definitely didn't know there was international travel involved.
Yeah, so when I was in Vegas, I don't know, like 2018, there was an event going on while I was there, not specifically in Vegas, like everywhere, but I randomly met up with a bunch of people and made some friends with these guys from Ireland. They and a bunch of their friends were going to Germany, so I convinced Ryan that we should go to Germany and go hang out with them and go to GoFest.
I have nowhere else to go with this. This is
Who's going to top that?
Mike. For you, did you feel sort of a bit of return to normalcy in how you were absorbing pop culture this year?
I feel like things are starting to change. Oh, go back to what is going to be the new norm. People won't ever be like how it used to be. But yeah, I've been to plenty of comic book conventions, traveled across the country, not out of country like some people, but I've been selling the comic books and stuff. So I've definitely been back out in the world.
Did you have a favorite convention that you did this year?
Oh, probably Cincinnati Comic Expo. That was our best show this year. And people say that show is a comic book convention. They are not lying.
I don't know if it's just me, but I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing Michael. Is that just me?
I'm having a hard time too.
Let's see what we can do about that. You go on and keep talking. I'll work this out.
Okay. Sorry to make you edit, Brad. Or maybe you'll leave that in. Who knows?
Man, it's real. It's real life.
Real raw Cosmic Geppetto. So you were going to ask me how about me for the whole like COVID back to normal, and it's yes or no for me. I mean, I was able to do some things. Had the Movies by Minute meetup here in Philly, so I got to see Brad and other friends in person, and so that was super fun. And I've gone to some movies. I just try to go at like an off time, like midday on a weekday when the theater's not going to be really crowded. But I do have a little bit of bitterness because in November I had to work 2 in-person events that were like long days with like a dinner and tons of people. This was for work and they didn't have a mask requirement. It was like masks are optional but welcome, which meant like nobody had masks but me. Then I got COVID. So there's a lot of things over the course of this year that I did do, like the aforementioned Movies by Minute meetup. But like, even while doing that, I was holding back on some aspects of it for my safety. Like there was a karaoke night and I just thought, man, I would love to sing some karaoke. I had my song all picked out, but that's a lot of standing around with people like singing at me. So I didn't do that. And then I ended up getting COVID while not having any fun.
Do you want to sing the karaoke song you had picked out now?
No. Thank you for that opportunity, but it just doesn't work the same without the background music, and you got to see me in a cute outfit.
I mean, I think Michael's willing to hum backing for you.
Dude, you read my mind. I was exactly about to say I can provide the beat, and then all you need to do is send us a picture in our chat, and we can describe it to everybody, and we got you covered.
What was the song?
Heartbreaker, Pat Benatar.
Pat Benatar has a lot of good karaoke songs. Jarf and I have not had a chance to hang out in person since well before the pandemic, when we met up in Philly and saw Ben Folds. It was so great getting to hang out, and also get to see Tierney, which was amazing seeing her in person. There was a fun event in a deep, dark part of Philadelphia. But we had a great time. That was a good thing. It was a good time to do. And I got to see Sully from the MLB podcast, who I have a ton of admiration for, and it was so good to see him. So that was a lot of fun.
You mentioned Tierney. That was my first time meeting Tierney in person after doing the entire Joe versus the Minute podcast together. So that was fun.
We're going to talk about our favorite pop culture things and the not so favorite. But what was something that you did this year that you specifically really enjoyed doing? Because I know we have some creatives here. You know, what was like a real highlight for this year for everybody?
Well, it's not pop culture. This is real life. I got into a very competitive work program, like a leadership program this year. So that's pretty exciting for me.
That's very exciting and so wonderfully well-deserved. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Jarf, how about you?
I had the opportunity to interview friend of the pod, Heidi Bennett, for her Vibrant Visionaries podcast. It was a milestone podcast, and I'm sorry, Heidi, I can't remember. Was it the 30th or 50th? Or it was something like that, but she was taking the occasion to reflect on how she got into podcasting and her intentions for her podcasting going forward. And so normally, of course, she's interviewing folks. So she kind of flipped it around and let me talk to her. And it was just she's a friend. So it was fun on that level. And it was just kind of fun to get her insights into how she arrived at this point in podcasting and what she's thinking about for the future.
Michael, there's always so much cool stuff that you have going on in the world of comics. What was something you were especially happy with happening this year?
We did a lot this year. I'd probably just have to say the growth that we made overall. We got to a lot of different shows. We funded a lot of Kickstarters. We had a lot of online presence that was really strong. Just really grew as a studio this year that I'm very much so hoping to continue to grow into next year.
You have big plans for the continued growth? I mean, I think really sets you aside from a lot of independent comic book creators and this isn't denigrating by any stretch, but a lot of them are just like, it's their hobby and they're going to put out an issue a year, an issue maybe twice a year. And their goal is just to make enough money and have enough time and have enough input to put out that next issue. But you actually have some pretty big plans and a whole world and so much fascinating world building. You know, are you continuing that? Are things you have your plans to make everything bigger and better?
We're always working. Right now, we're trying to close a couple deals on bringing on some more creatives and their properties to the studio, and we're looking at trying to get into an actual 6-inch action figure that we've been playing around with somebody with. We're probably going to slow down on our Kickstarters and do more direct releases with our books and trying to reach out to new parts of the country that we haven't been to. Like we went to Atlanta for the first time this year, and That was incredible because we've never been down there. And we got a lot of love for going there. Just trying to slowly reach out. I don't want to fly too close to the sun and burn my wings. So we're taking our time with it.
For me, and it's something I think I've mentioned on the show, but there was a bucket list item that I checked off this year where, and it was sort of a reaction to the pandemic where my creative outlets had sort of been shut down. What started off as me and friend of the show, KJ Valencic, getting together and every other week and him bringing his guitar and me having my guitar. We have beer in the basement. And all of a sudden it went from the two of us. And then we were able to bring in two more people for drums and bass and started playing some music. Had a great chance to do, I want to say it was April or May. We did our first set. We did a 20-minute set at a great place called the BC Brewery. We did a second set there a few months later. And we even had a little barbecue backyard concert at my house, and it was great because I've always loved music, and having a chance to have that band and playing music that I love and nobody throwing rotten fruit at us was really cool. Being able to do that at my late 40s. Obviously a little late. Jarf led his own band when we were in college, so he definitely got a 20 plus year head start on that. I finally caught up. And I just hope, Jarf, that we hit the same heights as Cork did when you were at Lock Haven.
I'm so curious about this. What kind of music did you play, Jarf?
Pop punk.
Nice. If I Google it, will I find anything?
No, we never recorded anything, or we just played some shows at like the student union. It was just a goof.
I don't think you should belittle it like that. It's probably way more than what you're letting on here, and I would love to hear it.
I agree with Mike.
I was there for the world debut. Jarf is a charismatic frontman.
See, that's why I wanted to do karaoke.
The one thing I do remember is the band was setting up. They're all broke college students. The bassist didn't actually have a bass amp. He just plugged his bass guitar into a boombox.
Right.
Okay, this is what we're doing, right? I remember your showstopper was your pop punk version of Leaving on a Jet Plane.
Oh yeah,
that sounds amazing.
It was very cool. Again, Jarf is charismatic frontman. Was your only time doing a band thing?
Yep. I decided to retire undefeated.
Well, that's smart. My brother did the same thing. He trained he always wanted to be in the UFC. He trained for months and months for his first mixed martial arts match. It was here in Columbus, Ohio, outside, like this restaurant was hosting it. Went out there, he won the match, and then he said, "I'm done. I'm going out on top." Undefeated.
I love that.
How old was your brother when he did that?
42.
Good for him. That is. Whew.
Exactly.
At 42, you get that win. You're not going for the belt. Let's start with the downside, because there was a whole lot of entertainment that came out. There's 50 streaming channels. What was something that came out that you were really disappointed in? What was the low point in pop culture? And let's go with Jarf.
Normally, I am not a negative person, but I think oddly I'm most excited to talk about what I didn't like, and that was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And the reason I didn't like it is because I was such a big fan of WandaVision, and I felt that they, instead of staying consistent with Wanda's character and continuing to explore those themes of grief, they just went for these cheap horror comedy gags, and the tone was just so wrong.
I know we even talked about that on an episode of the show about WandaVision and sort of the problems of it. It felt really fixable, and something as simple as you undid so much of the cool character work with Wanda, and all you needed to do to fix that was just sort of do a switch up where the Wanda from WandaVision, the MCU version of the character we followed, just switch that. So she's the one being possessed. So she's not the bad guy. She's the hero at the end that they call in. and you could still do everything else, just have it an alternate universe version of Wanda. And I think you could have done pretty much had the same movie, but without sort of screwing up that character that we really liked. I liked Multiverse of Madness well enough. That might be just a fact that I'm so much in the bag for Sam Raimi.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. I'm in the bag for Sam Raimi too.
It's tough, and I haven't rewatched it. That sort of shows that although it wasn't the biggest disappointment for me, I'm still not rewatching it the way I've watched Endgame, Winter Soldier, Ragnarok. Katie, what about you? What was your biggest pop culture heartbreak?
So I have two disappointing pop culture things. The first one, which we've talked about ad nauseum, was Thor: Love and Thunder. So I won't get back into that, but yeah, trash. And then I am a huge Stephen King fan. Like, I just devour his stuff. He's usually my number one every year. He came out with a book this year called Fairy Tale. It was just all right for me.
How often does that happen with King? Because King puts out so much content. Do you find a lot of his stuff is all right, or does it usually hit it out of the park for you?
It's usually 5 stars. But Fairy Tale, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't 5 stars for me. And I had also, it's funny that you ask, because they're going to be doing a show based on The Talisman, and I hadn't read that one yet. So I read that this year too, and I did not care for it.
Katie, we had talked about, obviously we did have a big conversation about your disappointment with Love and Thunder. I'm curious as to if your affection for Chris Hemsworth was reignited by, did you watch Limitless?
I did not watch Limitless.
Is that on the menu for you? A lot of Chris Hemsworth talking and swimming and taking his shirt off. That does seem to be in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it just hasn't happened. No real reason.
So you didn't hear about what happens on the show?
What happens on the show?
He gets some very bad news on the show, like live.
Oh, that's not very nice.
It's not. I really think they should have pushed him to, like, I don't know if they prepped him beforehand, but he didn't look prepped. But he is a good actor. But I really think that's something they should have told him off screen.
Oh, that's disappointing.
What was the bad news?
Do you mind me telling you, Katie?
Go ahead. Thank you for asking.
So Limitless is all about him seeing how much you can push the human body, how far can you go, how extreme you can get with it, health wise and adventure wise and stuff.
Kind of like your brother doing UFC.
Yeah. Yeah, at 42. But at the beginning of the show, to get things started, he had a bunch of tests done on him so they could see where he is at the beginning versus where he'll be at the end of the show. And they found out in his blood that he is 10 times more likely than the average person to get Alzheimer's.
Oof. That's rough.
Yeah, and that more than likely he is going to end up with it.
He's talked about it since Limitless came out, even sort of discussing his plans to sort of ramp back his acting and focus on his health and his family. Now he has the second, what was that Netflix movie he did?
Extraction.
Yeah, he has a second Extraction that's filmed, and when he was doing some interviews, he was just filming some supplementary footage for it, and he also has the Mad Max prequel. It sort of becomes a question of what he'll be doing after that, and he's definitely been a busy actor. He's been someone who does 1 and or 2 movies a year with the health concerns, and you look at a generation ago, you would have performers like Warren Beatty, Dustin Hoffman, who would do a movie every 3 or 4 years. But of course, what was it? Ryan Reynolds made a similar, not in regards to health, but Ryan Reynolds talked about ramping back, and it seems like Ryan Reynolds does a new movie every other month.
Kind of like the same thing with Bruce Willis. he was doing a string of terrible movies, and you're like, why is Bruce Willis in all these bad movies that are going direct to DVD and stuff? And he had a terrible diagnosis, so he was trying to hurry up and get his income up and do as many films as he could before it really started to kick in. But I forgot what he got diagnosed with.
It was something really horrible.
Aphasia, I think it's called. Seems to have a lot of Alzheimer's-like effects on him. Really heartbreaking because I was a big Bruce Willis fan in the late 80s and the 90s. Not too long before the diagnosis was made public for Bruce Willis. So who's the reverse Oscars where they put out the awards about the worst performances in the worst movies?
Razzies.
The Razzies.
The Razzies basically had a whole, because Bruce Willis had done all these crappy B movies where he wasn't giving good performances. It was pretty obvious that he was only doing like a week's worth of filming. They would show scenes where it was pretty obvious that Bruce Willis was like sitting in a car looking down, reading his lines, and it was obvious that he was like reading a script that was just off screen. Then the diagnosis came out, the Razzies, and I think we might be witnessing the end of the Razzies. I think the Razzies have been so mean-spirited for so long and punching down on a lot of performers in movies. I think people are starting to get tired of it. But it was really heartbreaking because that's John McClane. While he's an older gentleman, he still looks great and he's still in shape, knowing that he is losing his mental abilities.
That's like one of my biggest fears, just because both my mom's parents had Alzheimer's and dementia. So like having to watch that, like it terrifies me.
Michael, we're going to change the tune here. What was something that was a disappointment for you this year?
Oh my God, dude, there's so much stuff. I mean, not so much stuff disappointing, but just so much stuff that I consumed this year. Lots of streaming, lots of video games, lots of movies. I'm probably immediately going to think of something once we move on to a different conversation. But my most immediate one is God of War Ragnarok was disappointing for me. I've been looking forward to this game all year, and I'm playing it on a PlayStation 5. And I don't know if you guys have ever played this game before. It's what's called the style of gameplay is it's a track. It's a path. There's only one real way you can go in this game, no matter how much it deviates to the left or to the right. Ultimately, you can only go forward. You can only go one direction in this game. It's put on kind of a track, which helps them give them more ability to enhance the graphics and stuff. But Kratos is this huge, like, god of war. He has these amazing abilities. Like, I was disappointed because I'm getting old. I'm getting tired of that track mentality because ultimately there should be no puzzle or obstacle that can get in Kratos' way, especially when you've shown me how powerful Kratos is. Like, there's a 9-foot wall that I can use my chains to climb up and go up over, but then there is this 2-foot rock that's blocking my path that I just can't step over because you don't want me to go over there. It limits the power of the character. Like you built this character up to be so immensely powerful, but I can't step over a 2-foot rock. And the puzzles are so. I'm not trying to say it's like I'm a genius or something, because I'm not. I'm average intelligence, but the puzzles are so remedial. With the power I have, there's no puzzle that they put in front of me that I couldn't just break and just move forward. So it takes you out of the gaming experience, and I hate being taken out of the experience because the story and the acting in here is amazing, but you keep making me run into dumb shit and ruining my story moments. So that was probably the most disappointing thing for me this year so far. But I'm sure I'll think of something else because I've consumed a lot of pop culture this year.
And it's funny because I'm the one asking the question, and it was actually, this is a tough one for me to answer because I was just saying, it's like there was something that made me mad. I thought of not that long ago, and this might be a little bit of recency bias. Not that right after the holiday, visited my family down in Richmond, Virginia, and me and my parents, my wife, took the kids in Strange World. The Disney movie came out, and we took them to the theater. We were the only people in the theater, and it was like a Friday afternoon show. I just watched it, and while the visuals were really good, it was really a nothing story. It wasn't engaging. Also had a thing that I feel a lot of animated studios, and Disney in particular, have had go wrong for them recently, where sort of an overcomplicated story. And then what was also funny is we got there like at 12:45 and there was a 12:50 show. It's like, that's the next show, we'll go to it. And we didn't pay close enough attention. And it ended up being the closed captioned version showing of the movie, which is really distracting when you're in a movie theater. Then it turned out that movie did really bad. I think Disney's going to lose $100 million on the film. And it's frustrating because to people who haven't watched it yet, there is a very small plot point where the teenage son of the main character is gay and has a crush on another boy. It's not a huge plot point, but of course, whenever you have these very small things, all of a sudden a movie not being successful, oh, it's because Disney went woke. It's like, they really didn't. Just acknowledging that gay people exist doesn't mean that it's a fully woke movie. Sort of the same thing that happened with Lightyear, the Pixar movie, where acting like it was such a big deal that there was a same-sex kiss, and it's like it was a lesbian character who kissing her partner on the cheek, and it was not a major plot point. So it's frustrating on several levels. I also was disappointed in The Batman. Not that it was a bad movie.
Whoa.
But
I was just shocked by that one. But go on, defend your thesis.
It's definitely your mileage may vary, because it was not a bad movie. It was just tough because it's another gritty, realistic Batman movie when we just came off of the gritty, realistic Batman movies. So it seemed a little superfluous. I watched it, and at the end I was like, yeah, that was a movie. I wasn't excited to see the next Batman movie. Not a bad movie, but I'm not the first person to suggest this. It would be really fun to go in a different direction. And I'm not saying go full 60s era Batman TV show, but lightening the movie up, trying something a little different, I think would be fun. And I just think it's just getting to be a little too much of the same.
I mean, I don't know which to pick apart first. You're the host and all, but just your subjective personal opinions couldn't be more wrong.
Oh my God.
Get him, Jarf.
Don't listen to Brad. Strange World almost made my list of my favorites of the year. I have two others, so it didn't, but I did. That was one of the few that I saw in the theaters, and I thought that it was cute. And I didn't find the story to be overly complicated. Maybe for kids, and I think that you said that you took your kids, so maybe I could see that. But just for me, I thought that he was big-hearted, biracial kid with emotional intelligence, and that was key to the story. So I really liked that. I thought it was aesthetically beautiful, and it was just enjoyable and fun.
I did love the looks of the movie. I thought the movie looked great. It was lush. Yeah, you know what? Your mileage may vary. I didn't think it was a bad movie, but it just didn't grab me the way some of the really great Disney stuff and Pixar stuff of the last 20 years has grabbed me. I mean, WALL-E, Up. I mean, those movies had huge emotional impact on me. And yeah, it's a high bar, but Strange World just didn't have that for me.
Yeah.
I would like to say, I did not see Strange World, so I can't speak on it. I did see that Batman trash, so I can't speak on that. That movie was severely disappointing, and I forgot it because I blackened it out of my mind. It started off so good with the whole detective stuff and him finding things and being a detective, and I'll let his terrible Bruce Wayne go because he doesn't know how to be Bruce Wayne yet, so I'll let that slide. Him coming out of the shadows and the darkness, I loved all that. And then he does all this detective work for 3.5 hours to only be debunked by mispronouncing or misdefining one Spanish word. And the Penguin is the greatest detective in the film. Everyone's so happy that he does this detective work, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. But it all gets washed when the Penguin solves the crime.
Katie, did you see the Batman?
No, I don't care for DC.
Katie is a fluent Spanish speaker, so it would have been pretty great if Katie, like, standing there's like, Spanish, guys, come on. And I know, Katie, you get real mad at movies that have, where they have the unsolvable riddle, and you're really good at that stuff. you had a lot of frustration with Dan Brown stuff because you're really good at those riddles.
Yeah, I like solved it by reading the back cover. Like, just, it's too easy.
I'll shut up after this. The biggest disappointment, this is why I like talking to you guys, because now all this stuff is coming out and I'm starting to get fired up. The biggest disappointment is geek culture. People in geek culture suck. And I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about the people that complained about all the MCU stuff, all the people that complained about the DC stuff. There's a level to saying you didn't like something and giving constructive criticism and having valid reasons why you don't like something. But the amount of hate that has come out of geek culture because of woke films or woke anime or woke cartoons or woke comic books has been utterly disgustingly stupid. We are living in the golden era of geekdom, and y'all want to bitch? Are you kidding me? You simply just don't need to watch it. If it's not for you, if you do not like it, don't watch it. Guess what? They'll cancel it if enough people won't watch it. But now studios are talking about pulling back on releasing content now. That's dumb. There was so much content for us to watch. I was watching so much stuff. If I finished one thing, I was like, oh, in 2 weeks, something else is going to come out. I am about to die. I don't want to wait 2-3 years for projects anymore like I did when I was 14. That's dumb. And if you didn't like She-Hulk, if you didn't like Black Adam, if you didn't like anything that MCU put out, then don't continue to watch it. Don't ruin it for other people who are enjoying just getting content in general. Because we've never had this much content coming out from any studio. I digress.
Jarf, as the Tucker Carlson of Cosmic Geppetto, do you have a...
I want to add on to what Michael was saying, because also, for the love of God, don't start a YouTube streaming channel to tell us how much you hate all of this woke content. We do not need it. What's great about the Cosmic Geppetto podcast is we can disagree without being ridiculous and organizing ourselves around senseless hate. But all of that said, I still do disagree with both Brad and Michael about the Batman. Less so with Michael because I honestly didn't remember that whole thing with the puzzle. I'm terrible at puzzles, so I have the benefit of always being surprised at the end with just a like big doe-eyed expression, like "Wow, I never saw that coming." So it's useful to be dumb. But Brad, you said we'd had these other gritty Batman movies, and this just feels like more gritty, and it feels superfluous. So 2 things. Yes, it was gritty, but I still saw a significant difference in the tone, and it just had a very different style, and it was gritty like Batman was beating the crap out of people, but it wasn't gritty like this overarching theme of gloom and doom, and it's more about like moral anguish about what the Batman means in society. And so I don't think you can really fairly say that they're the same. And then moreover, how dare you call any movie with Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman superfluous? That's bonkers.
Listen, I want a second season of High Fidelity with Zoe Kravitz. I believe in Zoe Kravitz. I am a fan of hers. My only problem with High Fidelity is, and Katie and I talked about this a long time ago, was there was one scene in High Fidelity, which was a wonderful TV show based on one of my favorite books of all time, where Zoe Kravitz was talking about the previous relationships, and she talked about how there was this one woman who was tall and blonde, and Zoe Kravitz was like, I'm just not as sexy or beautiful as she is. It's like, no one on the world makes Zoe Kravitz feel not sexy or not beautiful, because goddamn it, it's Zoe Kravitz. I am a big Zoe Kravitz fan. Even Robert Pattinson, I have been a defender of his for a long time because I don't think Robert Pattinson gets he gets a bum deal because I think Pattinson he gets blamed a lot for doing the Twilight stuff, and I think I've said it to you guys. What was he supposed to do? Turn down the role? And he's done some daring work. I just didn't need it, and especially in a year where there was supposed to be a Batgirl movie with Michael Keaton, and we know that Michael Keaton's going to be in the Flash movie, and also apparently Ben Affleck is coming back as Batman.
You talk like that Flash movie is actually going to happen.
I believe it's going to happen, and until they announce that it's going to be canceled, I believe it's going to happen. I think
They just announced that they're moving the release date for it up earlier. They're doing it.
I am not particularly interested in it. I have a tough time with speedsters in anything except for comics because in TV or movies, speedsters sort of are ridiculous. I think it's going to happen. There's 3 big screen Batmen right now, and that seems like too many. Hey, if you like the movie, and again, I am all for Zoe Kravitz getting work. I think she's wonderful. I went more high fidelity and less Catwoman. But, again, your mileage may vary. Before we go to the things that we're happy about, it's that time. Katie, do you have a question?
We actually kind of briefly touched on Disney. Who is your favorite Disney hero or heroine, and would you change places with?
Michael, you first, because I'm stalling because I have no idea.
It has to be the character that came out this year, right?
No, it can be of all time.
Oh my goodness! Why'd I open myself up to that question? There's so many. I'm an avid fan of the MCU. I know I have bias and I don't give a damn. But I'm probably gonna have to say the one that I am, Yelena. She's my favorite. Yelena is my favorite, closely followed by Kamala Khan. And if I could switch places with Yelena, I absolutely would. She's hilarious. She's so just lovable. Like you want to be her friend, and then she's a complete badass at the same time. And she likes macaroni and cheese. I absolutely love macaroni and cheese. She just got the box stuff. She hasn't even had homemade oven macaroni and cheese. When that happens, I want to be there. I want to be the person to give her baked macaroni and cheese.
I thought that those were fun picks. I interpreted it for some reason as like Disney animated cartoon, even though Disney owns everything. So I could have said BB-8, but I would want to be the fox Robin Hood from Robin Hood and His Merry Men. The cartoon animal Robin Hood.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That was my jam as a kid.
Right? So good.
I thought of the Fox Robin Hood too. Jarf, when was the last time you watched that movie?
I think it was like 2 years ago. Tierney did like some kind of like group watch around it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was recent. I was like a grown-ass man for sure.
What were your feelings on rewatching it?
Oh, I think it still holds up.
My oldest, Chase, went through a phase where he wanted to watch that every day. Watching that era of Disney movie, between that and Sword in the Stone, it's interesting because it was the narrative was sort of weird. It was a lot of bits.
Yes, and it was much shorter than I was like, this is going to be like a whole movie, and it was like super short. I'm like, it's already over? Okay.
First off, I just like Robin Hood, and that was such a fun rendition of Robin. It was like, he's a fox. He's a smiling hero, and we don't get a lot of smiling heroes anymore.
Super charming. Yeah.
For me, I was also thinking of the Disney animated stuff. Gosh, that's...
We stalled for you, man.
I know. I really should be coming with my A game, but I think I put a little bit too much gin in my gin and tonic. Character that I really love from Disney, and this is even still a little peripheral because it's Pixar. I love WALL-E, and I mentioned WALL-E and Up, which I think was really the peak of Pixar. Even more than that, and this sort of ties everything together because, like Mike said about, I'm also a true blue Marvel fan, and the Disney and Marvel real combination was Big Hero 6, and I love the character Hero. And he was an inventor, and he was somebody who used his smarts and everything to help everyone around him and have great adventures. I don't know if I want to change places because, as is the case with most Marvel characters, a lot of tragedy in his life with his brother passing away. That's a fun character that I think of as like, oh, it'd be fun to be Hero.
You are watching a master at work.
Katie, I'm sure you have your own thoughts on this because you made the question.
Yeah, and I was actually more thinking animated too, but I did kind of was like, well, like Jarf said, Disney does own everything, but I kind of focused on animated Disney, and my favorite character is Megara from Hercules. I think I would trade places with her because then I could be with Hercules.
Okay. Now they're doing am I right remembering they're doing Disney is, as they've been doing the live action versions of their movies, they're doing a live action version of that Hercules. Am I remembering that right?
That's what I remember.
That's news to me, but that's great news to me.
Who would you want as Hercules?
I mean, come on now. Really? Do you have to ask that question?
All right, fair enough.
I don't think I'd answered the bit of would I want to trade places with Fox Robin Hood, and the answer is no, because I don't want to live in olden times. I don't want to live any time before antibiotics.
That's a very good point.
Very good point.
I took my kids for the first time, and Jarf, you'll appreciate this because I took my my kids to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair for the first time ever.
Nice.
And I took them this year. And Jarf and I both worked at the PA Ren Fair during our college days. My kids were having a great time, and then they're like, "Hey, Dad, give us $2." It's like, why? It's like, because there's the torture museum, and they had this little stand thing where you would go in, and I'm like, well, I'm not going in there, but go ahead, kids. And they went in with their mom. They came out, it was like, oh, it was messed up back then. It's like, yeah. It's fun having iPads and antibiotics, isn't it? It's like, yes, Dad, it is, because they did some really crappy stuff to people. It's like, yes, it's not everything was cool back then. It's nice to visit the PA Ren Fair where you get to like see people in the costumes and stuff, but they also have like hot chocolate and French fries. We're on to the happy stuff. What was your favorite pop culture thing from this year?
Michael picked one of mine for one of his Disney characters, but one of mine is Ms. Marvel. I just thought that series was so fun. It's got that diverse representation that we're looking for, and then it's got this likable teenager dealing with everyday problems like family expectations and romance, and follows that Peter Parker Spider-Man formula. I thought the production design was great. The show looked great. It was a solid story. So that was my most enjoyable on the Marvel side. And then I also really liked the latest season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I think it's season 4, but they really were on point with that rapid fire Amy Sherman Palladino dialogue, and the costumes were fantastic. This is like a minor spoiler, but she becomes the MC of a burlesque show in this season. And so you get sprinkled in some body positive burlesque performances. Those are my two. Ms. Marvel, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Jarf, have you seen, and this is sort of for everyone, did you see the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special?
I just watched that yesterday. I thought it was fun. I mean, it's like a light and goofy, but still has some story elements for Guardians along the way. And I thought it was close to the tone of the other Guardians movies. So I think as a special, it totally worked. I was moved by it. It was fun. Old 97s performed in it. You get a lot more of what's Palm's character's name? Mantis. Yeah, you get a lot more Mantis than you get in the other appearances she's been in. So I think that she's does a great job with that character. So I especially like that element.
All right, Mike. First off, did you also see the Christmas special? And what was your favorite pop culture thing of 2022?
Absolutely, I saw the Christmas special. It was amazing, and I hate James Gunn because he's going to make me care more and more about these characters until he snatches them from me in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So screw him. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for those of you who've not seen it, but it's super fun. And I agree. I like the presentation of it. I like that. I want them to do that every year with a different character. Do it every year with a different character. I want to see what Spidey's Christmas is like. I want to see what Yelena's Christmas is like. What is Christmas like for Wanda? You have so many characters. You can do that holiday special every year with a different one. So hopefully they do that. I have a lot of things that I like this year, and again, being succumbed and overwhelmed by all of it.
God, I'm so happy to have Mike back on the show. It's been a little while.
I'm just going to cheat. Wait, hold on. There was some. See, I can't ever remember when I'm asked it, but as soon as we get off this damn cast, I'm going to remember it. So I'm going to just cheat and just give it to the entire phase 4 of MCU. They did a lot of things that I enjoyed and I liked, and I just loved having superhero content every month. Every month I had something new that I could watch, that I could talk about, that I could enjoy. Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel was a big part of that for my faves. I really enjoyed She-Hulk, and I know a lot of people didn't like Love and Thunder, but I did. I enjoyed it. I feel like I got where it was coming from, and especially the ending where you get the name of the title. It was the best movie title name ending payoff that I gotten this year. So I'm just going to give it all up to the MCU. They opened up this world to so many people, so many cultures, so many people of color, so many women, and so many people got to see a piece of themselves being amazing on small screen, on big screen. And so I'm going to have to give that to them.
Well, you're right. We forget what a bounty of riches it is because I think it was just in the past few weeks, there was a 1990s Captain America film, and Jarf and I have actually talked about it in passing on this program. And it was directed by Albert Payan, who just passed away. While Captain America was a crappy movie, he was a successful B-movie director. But I just remember we were excited about the 1990 Captain America film because we thought that was as much as we were going to get. And it was lousy. It was so cheap and crappy. And that's all we had to go by then. And now having Thor and Captain America, and for God's sakes, Guardians of the Galaxy, and on the TV side, Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight getting their own programs. And you don't have to love all of them, but it is really cool to have these. And I remember years back during my day job, a woman said how the third of the Christian Bale Batman movies was the worst superhero movie she ever saw. It was like, oh. Let's talk about the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, or let's talk about the Fantastic Four movie that I think they had like a $25 budget for, and all that. I mean, or Howard the Duck. So we are definitely getting some very cool stuff, and you don't have to love all of it, but it is pretty cool that this year we got a very cool, and I really liked it, where we got a Werewolf by Night 45-minute long special on Disney Plus that I thought was really cool. We got Swamp Thing in that. I mean, Swamp Thing in that.
Man Thing.
Man Thing.
It's a pretty neat it's a pretty neat thing that's happening, and you sort of forget how awesome it can be. Speaking of awesome, Honey Badger, what do you got?
So my favorite movie of this year, it's called Violent Night.
Oh, you seen that?
Oh my god, it is gory and disgusting and so funny and just fresh. Like, just not like anything that we've seen before. And it actually has like a very sweet story behind it. So there's a lot going on. It's really good.
I like David Harbour so much, and he has such a great attitude, and he seems to love that he has this sort of late career success. So that's really cool.
I'm sorry. Now you've helped me pick it. This is why I talk to y'all, and we talk through these processes. My favorite thing from this year is Stranger Things Season 4, when David Harbour picks up the sword from Conan and chops off the head of a Demogorgon. It was incredible. I can't believe that slipped my brain. That's how much content we have gotten this year from geekdom. That I would forget that a Stranger Things 80s, 90s inspired horror show that we love so much has a reference to Conan the Barbarian in a dogfight, pit fight, picks up a sword from Conan and chops off a Demogorgon's head.
And that's the actual sword from Conan.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So there we go. All right. I know I needed a little bit more time. I'm so glad I got to find it while I was here with you guys. I just love geek stuff so much. It's hard to pick. But that, I jumped up off the damn couch, swinging my fist in the air for joy because it was so incredible.
I love that Michael gives us this heartfelt speech about how meaningful it is for people to see themselves represented on screen. And it's like the whole Phase 4. No, wait, I remember when that dude chopped off the monster's head. That was forget the other thing.
I do have another one I had for a show. It's not geeky, but it was really good. It's called The Bear. It was on Hulu.
Yeah, it takes place in a restaurant.
Yeah, in Chicago. It's really, really good.
Oh, it's Aubrey Plaza, right?
No. It's the guy who plays Lip in
Yep.
Shameless.
But it'd be better with Aubrey Plaza, right?
It would be a weird vibe if Aubrey Plaza was included. I do love her, but this is not for her.
For me, and it's something that I've talked about on this show. I was lucky enough to go, and I mentioned it before in this episode, and I had a long conversation in a previous episode about going to New York City and going to see a Broadway production, and I got to see Hugh Jackman in Music Man, and had pretty good seats, and he is an amazing performer. And then afterwards, we went outside, and my wife was able to get. She wasn't able to get his autograph, but she got pretty close to him. And it was so cool seeing somebody that I've been watching in movies and really enjoying for 20 years. He is an amazing performer. And then that happening like 2 days before they announced that Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. Very much looking forward to that in 2024. Deadpool 3 with Wolverine. And it sort of goes to what Michael's talking about, where Hugh Jackman, when growing up, and I think Jarf can attest to this because he and I are the same age, comic book movie roles were sort of career killers, where Christopher Reeves had a very tough time being anything other than Superman. Even Michael Keaton, who was an established actor beforehand, even he had a little bit of a tough time where, he's Batman. And sort of took a while for him to sort of recalibrate his career afterwards. Years before that, performers in the 60s Batman TV show having a tough time not being Batman and Robin. And Hugh Jackman gets to be a Broadway superstar, and then he's in the movie The Sun, which is getting Oscar buzz, and then he gets to be Wolverine again. And it's really neat. When I watched Hugh Jackman pop up on screen and he did his first big number, and he's a really good song and dance guy, and he has so much stage presence and charisma. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I actually had like goose flesh watching him perform because he was so good, and he pulled the audience in so well. And I haven't been to New York in years. it was a pretty unique experience, and it's something that I'll remember and cherish. So, and then again, it was so cool. Like 2 days later, it's like, oh, there's Ryan Reynolds did that awesome short video where he's talking about Deadpool 3, and then Hugh Jackman walking in the background. It's like, oh my God, this is happening.
Ryan Reynolds knows how to promote, man. He knows how to promote.
The Aubrey Plaza series is Black Bear.
It's close.
Close, but not the same.
Yes.
Yeah, the one with Lip is really good. I started watching it, but I haven't finished it. Again, there's just so much stuff out right now. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah, we always take a kind of a pause from new stuff during October because it's Spooktober, and so we have to watch something spooky every single day of the month. That sets us back on our consumption as well.
Yes, I did the same thing. I don't always do that, but this year I watched all of the classic Universal horror movies, Bela Lugosi, Dracula, etc. So that was fun. They're all on the Criterion channel.
Very cool.
I guess we lost Brad. Who wants to play host and wrap it up?
Why don't you take us away?
Okay. Well, we should probably wrap up now because I know that Jarf has an early bedtime, but it's always great getting Honey Badger and her amazing friends together. Katie, you brought the goods as always. Michael, we can always count on you to amp up the enthusiasm and bring your trademark glee. And Jarf, you just always have such trenchant observations and made me realize how wrong I was to criticize the Batman and Strange World. So I hope that you all have a great holiday season. Can't wait to get back together as soon as we can. And that will be all for the Cosmic Geppetto podcast. Jarf, why don't you take us out? I'll see you in the funny pages.
That wraps episode 274. Big thanks to Honey Badger and her amazing friends. I gotta ask, is that what I sound like at the end of episodes? I am trying to decide if that is awesome or horrifying. Next time on the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, it is the return of the Answer Man, Thaddeus Howes. Till then, as Jarf already said,
See you in the funny pages.
Subscribe to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever quality podcasts can be found. Rate and review us while there. Follow us on Twitter at CosmicGPod and we will follow you back. Unless you're a jerk. We don't follow jerks. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cosmic Geppetto. We love hearing your ideas for upcoming episodes. Email us at cosmicgeppetto@comcast.net.
Jarf, you freaking nailed that. I was like trying not to laugh out loud so you could get through it, but that was like so spot on.
I can't wait for him to hear that. That's so fun.